Located just north of the Richmond metro area, Caroline County is one of the few rural counties left along the I-95 corridor, and people who live here are working to keep it that way. Named for Caroline of Ansbach, a former Queen of England in the early 1700s, Caroline County still has some of the architecture from that era. For example, Newmarket Plantation was established in 1726. But that's not the only connection to royalty here. Caroline County is also the birthplace of Secretariat, considered by many to be the greatest racing horse of all time. His records still stand in the American Triple Crown, and visitors can see the barn where he was born and other memorabilia at the Meadow Event Park, home of the State Fair of Virginia. But even with those historical roots, farmer Robbie Carruthers knows that change is inevitable.
Well, when I was a child, my grandfather used to always say that at some point Richmond and Fredericksburg are going to meet, and we are right in the middle. We got it coming up from Richmond and we got it coming down from Fredericksburg, so it hadn't gotten here yet.
Carruthers is a third-generation producer who started in nearby Hanover County and moved to Caroline because Hanover's land was becoming too expensive. He's hoping that conservation easements will help farmers keep their land for farming.
Basically, they restrict it to growth. So you couldn't sell it for development, you couldn't sell it for commercial, you couldn't even do 10-acre lots. It would have to be kept for agriculture or timber.
Carruthers' property was originally a land grant from the King of England in 1726. It's now a 450-acre family-owned property, and Carruthers is hoping to play on that rich heritage to get into agritourism. LYNWOOD BROADDUS runs Spring Hill Farm with his son Bates, who is the sixth generation to work the property. As the Caroline County Farm Bureau president, he's well acquainted with the diversity of agriculture in the county.
We've got some farmers in the county that are all produce. We've got some that are hay, straw. We're predominantly grain, but we've got a lot of people who are doing produce, especially on a small scale, pick your own. Being between Richmond and Fredericksburg, there's a lot of market for produce. And I can see where the agriculture in Caroline is changing. Population is moving in because of our proximity to Northern Virginia. So there are markets that are opening up for produce.
BROADDUS is also involved in explaining how farming works to visitors at the State Fair of Virginia.
It's amazing if you put on coveralls and a check shirt and you can walk up to people and carry on a conversation and they don't back away. They stereotype me as a farmer. That's what they're used to. Then I can explain to them about my farm. I can explain to them about what we do with continuous no-till. And I can explain to them, yes, that we rely heavily on chemicals, Roundup, 2,4-D. And other insecticides and fungicides, but we are producing a safe and abundant product.
Caroline County has 222 farms covering 61,831 acres. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Caroline County is ranked third in soybean acres planted in Virginia and second in the state for bushels produced. Caroline County is tied for fifth in the state for grain corn production, with 12,100 acres planted. Vegetable production brings in $2,366,000. Livestock farmers bring in $970,000, and most of that is from cattle and calf sales. The market value of all agricultural products is $22,908,000. Corn and soybean crops account for nearly all of that income, bringing in $18,466,000.
95% of the agriculture in Caroline is from grain and growing grain.
Mike BROADDUS, no direct relation to LYNWOOD, has a lifetime of knowledge about the land in Caroline County.
Soils here are really prominent in growing grain as opposed to some other things. We cannot compete, obviously, with the really sandy soils of the Eastern Shore and growing potatoes. We cannot compete with the water-holding clays in the southern Piedmont for growing tobacco, but we do grow grain crops here especially well.
Kevin Tate works for M.S. Terrell & Sons in Ruther Glen, producing corn and soybeans on 8,000 acres. He's another Caroline County farmer with deep roots here.
I was born and raised. My grandfather, he started it. You know, he started the operation in 1974. And then we just, you know, followed his footsteps along with a lot of other family members here on the farm, has followed his footsteps.
You can see the difference in atmosphere between Caroline County and more developed communities just by visiting Bowling Green, the county seat. It has a small town feel that stands in contrast to the modern architecture and pace of life of more suburban Virginia communities nearby. With so many families that have such strong ties to agriculture, it's easy to see why the people of Caroline County are taking steps to keep their community as rural as possible. Farmers are creating conservation easements and taking advantage of other planning tools to keep their land open for agriculture for generations to come. In Caroline County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.